Read it for yourself. There are those in the beginning, in the days of the prophet Joseph Smith, when the gospel was restored, who sought to bring forth Zion, but they never really attained their goal, did they? When Jesus appears to the Nephites in the Book of Mormon at the land Bountiful, where the righteous were gathered, what was going on? What had just happened? There was a great and terrible destruction throughout all the land. The most horrible thing, for 3 days of darkness, day and night. Because of the wickedness of the people, and cities were buried, cities caught fire, cities were drowned in the sea, cities disappeared under the earth. It was preceded by great and terrible destructions. That's what it calls them. And we know that the Lord's Day of Judgment, the Day of Jehovah, the Day of the Lord, is also called the Great and Terrible Day of the Lord, right? And some people say, well, it's great for the righteous and terrible for the wicked. It's not true. It uses adjectives successively like that to show that it's greatly terrible, or a great and marvelous work is a greatly marvelous work. That's the meaning of the Hebrew words. And that happened among the Nephites. Because of their wickedness, there were the great and terrible destructions, but guess what? There was a righteous remnant saved out of it. And that's how it will be again in the end time. That's 3 Nephi chapter 8, terrible destructions. And then Jesus comes down to the Nephites, 3 Nephi chapter 9. And then Jesus teaches the people, gives them his gospel, fullness of the gospel. He calls disciples, appoints them to certain ministries. That's in 3 Nephi 12 through 28. And then finally, as we'll read in a moment, they become a happy people. So there's that sequence of events that typifies the coming of the Lord. And that's how it will be again. We create terrible destructions throughout the world, but particularly here in this land. Land is a target for the enemies of God's people. After that, Jesus will descend to a remnant of his people that will be gathered by the kings and queens of the Gentiles to Zion, to the old and new Jerusalems. And then the Lord's teachings will go worldwide. And as Jesus said in other scriptures, the true points of his doctrine will be taught. We're still laboring under many precepts of men at the present time that have no scriptural basis. When you actually examine what the scriptures say, they don't say a lot of things that we believe. That's in 3 Nephi 12 through 28. And then 4 Nephi 1:16, Mormon says, there could not be a happier people among all the people who had been created by the hand of God. And that is a great type of a millennial people of God, how it will be in the millennial age. And how long does the millennial age last? It lasts 1,000 years, right? But guess what? It's not 1,000 years of telestial time as it is now. As we know, one day of the Lord is like 1,000 years to us, right? So one day of God's time is like 1,000 years of telestial time. So the millennial age being a terrestrial time when paradise reigns upon the earth, we go to a new Garden of Eden situation throughout the earth. During that 1,000 years of terrestrial time, how long do you think that will be then? A lot longer than just 1,000 years of our current time. And then the earth itself will be celestialized. It will attain a celestial glory and become, as the prophet Joseph Smith saw, a sea of glass. And then we will dwell in everlasting burnings with God, all those who remain upon the earth. And that is the ultimate goal of the earth, the history of the earth, where it's going. And we'll say the Book of Mormon selectively uses history to typify many end-time events. In that respect, the Book of Mormon is so informative to us. What a gift it is to us. When we immerse ourselves in the Book of Mormon, we are immersing ourselves in a way the prophecies of the end time. Especially today, I would recommend reading the Book of Helaman, as I have before, saying, compare this with what's happening in our world today. And the time frame of what we just read is the time of the end when all scriptural patterns repeat themselves. All scriptural patterns repeat themselves in the end time and the time of the Lord's coming.